One of many reasons for the Great Western Railway's fame was their range of Pannier Tank steam locomotives, with examples ranging from the famous 5700 class of 1929 to more obscure designs like the 1366 class of 1934. Today's subject is one of the final designs in this range, and her appearance differs greatly from a traditional Pannier Tank. This is the 1500 class, brought to Train Simulator by Victory Works. The add-on was released on the 16th of August 2024, and it's available on the Steam Sounds Supreme website for £14.50, or around 32 New Zealand dollars. Curiously, there was no pre-order phase for the 1500, whereas the 9400 class, another Victory Works product, did have a pre-order phase. 10 of these locomotives were built, but despite being designed by Frederick Hawksworth, the GWR's last chief mechanical engineer, and built at Swindon Works, they are not technically Great Western. This is because they weren't built until 1949, shortly after the formation of British Railways. I have no idea what Zack the Z-Class is doing there. Although the 1500s were, by no means, a bad design, they still had limited usefulness. For one thing, the short wheelbase, only 3.91 metres, made them unsuitable for fast running, and their high axle loading restricted the number of routes on which they could run. The class was largely confined to station pilot's duties at London Paddington, while locomotives 1506 through 1509 were based at sheds in South Wales. Much like locomotives from the BR Standard range, the 1500s had very short working lives. Withdrawals began in 1959, with the last engine going in 1963, by which time the class was only 14 years old. Most of the class was scrapped, but 1501, 1502 and 1509 were sold into preservation with the National Coal Board, and 1501 has survived into preservation at the Severn Valley Railway, after 1502 and 1509 were used as spare parts donors. In real life, 1501 is currently out of service, following the expiry of her boiler ticket in January 2023. As an aside, 1501 happens to share her number with a preserved diesel locomotive in the smaller land down under. I remember the textures on older Victory Works models, particularly the LNER K1, looking somewhat glossy, but to my eyes at least, that doesn't appear to be the case on the 1500. For a texture comparison, here are the LNER J72 and Caledonian Railway 782 classes, representing the newer and older renditions of BR Black from Caledonia Works. Only now have I realised that I stupidly forgot to put the K1 down for this scene. This add-on from Victory Works includes a decent selection of liveries, depicting the 1500s from their introduction in 1949 up to their days with the NCB, and there's also a couple of preservation variants for 1501. Strangely, a GWR green livery is also included despite being inauthentic for this particular class. But then again, when Rapido Trains UK made their 00 scale models of the 1500s, they included this livery too. Personally, I think GWR green looks weird on a locomotive built after nationalisation, and that goes for the preserved 9400 class number 9466 and all. It's a different story for 9400 herself, as that one was built prior to nationalisation. Speaking of the 9400, the 1500 shares the same boiler as her slightly older cousin, and when you put both classes side by side, you can see that they still have a family resemblance despite being very different from each other. The 9400 has inside cylinders and water tanks that are slightly longer than those on the 1500, while the 1500 has outside cylinders and no running board. Aside from the 1366 and 1500 classes, I'm not aware of any other Great Western Pannier Tank designs that used outside cylinders. I reckon the 1500 looks like a westernized version of the US ATC S100 tank engine. Unfortunately, and as far as I know, the only S100 model we've got in TS is the awful Iron Horse House version that came with the now discontinued Forum Peninsula route. As has been commonplace on Victory Works products down the years, the 1500 has an advanced mode that's toggled on and off by pressing Ctrl A, but for people who would prefer not to use advanced mode, this locomotive still works fine with the standard F4 heads-up display and keyboard controls. There's a comprehensive manual included, and I recommend reading it for a good understanding on how the 1500 works, especially if you want to drive this thing in advanced mode. The manual also has information on locomotive details that can be changed in the scenario editor, although the amount of customizability depends on the variants you choose. I like the multiple cab camera angles, although there aren't as many as there are on, for a random example, the GWR Castle from Precision Locomotive Developments. In any case, the 1500 features a fully modelled 3D firebox, although the intense glow from the fire impacts the frame rates when the firebox doors are open. Unfortunately, a performance mode of any kind is nowhere to be seen on the 1500. Before I forget, it's worth mentioning the fact that this engine has an animated reverser rod, and this feature sort of reminds me of the animation that you see on the Steam Rail motor, which was another Victory Works product, but one that was released in 2014. The 1500 also comes with 3 scenarios, although the manual doesn't say whether they are career or standard. They are in fact standard mode. 2 of the scenarios are for the Mardi branch, which you can get on Steam as part of the J94 Memories of Mardi pack, and the 3rd is for the Keighley and Worth Valley Railway, available on Steam Sound Supreme's website. I reviewed the KWVR add-on back in June 2024, and to summarise my thoughts on it, I like the high level of detail, especially at the stations, but the price is very steep for a route this short, not to mention the laundry list of DLC required for all the reskins. In any case, driving on the KWVR in-game feels very different now that I've ridden along this line in real life. Is this a bad time to say that I still haven't seen the Railway Children film of 1970? As for what the 1500 is like to drive, I suppose it depends on whether or not you have advanced mode on. Historically, I have preferred to drive Victory Works locomotives in standard mode, and in this case, I can't really comment on advanced mode because I've never used it on the 1500. In any case, it's good to see the developers catering for people of differing skill levels. Something that I have forgotten to mention so far is the fact that a slope-sided 16-ton mineral wagon is included with the 1500 pack. This wagon is supplied in BR Grey Worn, Dennerby Collieries and Stewart's and Lloyd's Limited variants, and there's even this variant that's easy to reskin, though I haven't tried it myself because I don't make reskins. Incidentally, the name Stewart's and Lloyd's is ringing bells, but I have absolutely no idea why. I could not find any mention of an ideal fire mass in the manual, so I had to work it out as I went along. Your mileage may vary, but I've found that between 62 and 64% on the F4 heads-up display, or between 770 and 800 pounds on the F5, does the job perfectly fine. For reference, the engine's normal working boiler pressure is 195 pounds per square inch. In closing, I can safely say that I'm happy with the Great Western Railway 1500 class from Victory Works, with my only criticism being the engine's lack of performance mode. The 1500 has pretty good audio and modelling, not to mention a pleasant driving experience, and I've found that she can drag 10 7-plank wagons plus a towed brake van up the Mardi branch without much trouble, so I can recommend her to other TS Classic players, particularly if they like Pannier Tanks or Great Western engines in general, and I'll leave it up to you to decide whether or not you'll wait for a sale and buy the pack then. As for where I'd rate the 1500, I'll give her a 7 out of 10.